Thanks so much for joining us on another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. The great thing about horse racing is even coming off a big weekend like the Preakness last week, the show just keeps going on. It keeps rolling, Alexa. We have no off-season. Tracks will shift, but there's always big races all throughout the country and throughout North America. And this weekend, our focus is going to be out west because since it's Memorial Day weekend, we actually have an extra day of racing. Some of the big tracks will actually race on Monday. That's where our focus will be out at Santa Anita. But we want all of you to follow along with us. So we encourage all of you to check out the data, all of the research, all the past performances and the information that we have for you before we dive into the races. And you can get all of that when you scan the QR code or when you check out shop.drf.com. You get free data, free analysis, race of the day information. For us, Alexa, our focus is going to be Monday, Memorial Day Monday, out at Santa Anita. Ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, it's a good time. If you're at your barbecues on Monday, you can just be betting on the side.
Yep, I think I'm going to head on out to Santa Anita and check out these big races because there's 3 graded stakes races and they're part of the late pick 5. So we're going to preview races 7, 8, and 9 for Monday, May the 26th. Let's get right into the Grade 1 Gamely. Good field lining up here. There are 2 horses, Alexa, that are actually entered to run in a race on Sunday and in this race. So we're not exactly sure where they're going to run, but by the time Monday runs, you'll know because if they didn't run Sunday, they'll be in this race. That's the 2 Alphabella, and that's the outside runner, Where's My Ring, the number 9. So if those 2 are in, or maybe one of them will be in, maybe one of them runs on Sunday. Let's start with Lady Claypool. It's one of a couple horses, Alexa, in here that's really sharp out on the West Coast in some of the West Coast stakes races. Lady Claypool has won 3 races in a row, and then she just won the Santa Ana. But this will definitely be the toughest group she's going to face as she steps up into a Grade 1.
Yeah, the last one was her first time against Graded Stakes Company, but a Grade 3. She went from last to first. Definitely a big closer. She is coming off a 2.5-month layoff, and she's never won off a break before, but I think you do have to love a horse who's been on a winning streak and been improving.
Yep. Alphabella, she's a Grade 3 winner, but she's not a win machine overall. She's a horse who loves to finish second. In her career, she has 3 wins in her 21 starts, then 8 times she's finished second. So she's in the mix a lot, but she doesn't really have that killer win instinct.
Yeah, she's kind of the opposite of Lady Claypool, right? She's been running in Graded Stakes years for the last 2.5 years. So, she's super seasoned against this level of competition, but like you said, gets those second places more than the wins. But again, is a really versatile horse. She's run on the dirt and the turf. Her early and late pace figures are actually the same, if you note that on the screen. So she's kind of a grinder type. She's shown some early speed in some races, as well as kind of hanging back and showing some closing speed. So she's a talented, versatile horse, but I would not say is like a standout in this field.
What's cool about this race is that it's really competitive. I think you can make a case for just about anyone, but there's no real
that way about most of these races,
right? At least the 2 of them, at least 2 of the 3 for sure. And there's nobody that like stands out among the rest. So that's what makes a good betting race. Or if you're looking at any sport to bet, any field to bet on, you want it to be kind of evenly matched because there's a lot of different options. Even a horse like Kinjani, who hasn't been facing stakes company, it's not like she's been doing anything wrong in her 3 races in the U.S., Alexa, and she's going to make her second start after a long layoff. I wouldn't be shocked to see her run well coming off of a really troubled trip last time out.
Yeah, she's been off for, 15 months, or was off for that long. So you have to kind of assume there was some kind of injury, and then this is her second out after that break. So her figures, I wouldn't say are good enough to win, but we don't know, right? We don't know exactly how she's going to come back, how well she's prepared and ready after that big, long break. For me, I'm not including her, though.
You and I both like the number 4 Public Assembly a little bit. She's just been so impressive in her last couple. And I think we even have a replay to show you some of her last race, which was the win in the Royal Heroine over at Santa Anita. Alexa, she was kind of behind horses. There was a moment where it looked like she was going to get stuck. And then as soon as she got an opening, she shot through.
Yeah, this horse has so much upside. Her progression is super impressive. She's never regressed. Her figures have improved every single start. They stepped her up to Graded Stakes Company, like you said there. And She won. She's that mid-pack closer, which I think will be a decent running style for the setup in this race. We have no reason to believe we've seen her ceiling. We've seen the best out of her yet. So I think Public Assembly, if you notice on the screen, the morning line box is blank. That's because we're doing this pretty early, right? This is Friday. These races aren't until Monday, so we don't actually have odds yet for these horses. But I don't know, Gino. I feel like we might get a decent price on Public Assembly.
I agree. I think if she's going to be in the 5-1 above range, I'm going to play her to win. I think that's somewhere where we're going to find her in that mix. No Show Sammy Joe comes out of a really tough grade 1. Like, just because a race is a grade 1 doesn't necessarily mean all grade 1s are the same, right? She came out of a really tough race over at Keeneland. This is a better spot for her. I'm just a little worried about her running style because she's a deeper closer, but she fits with this group.
Yeah, she can definitely hit the board. I think a win might be kind of tough for her, but she like Public Assembly, she's really never regressed. And this race does have a lot of those mid-pack closers in it, though. So I think it could be difficult for her to get the trip and be running with everybody at the end.
The number 6, Expensive Queen, is trained by Brendan Walsh. She's only raced one time in the U.S., and it was a good start. It was a win. This is tougher for her. But just to give you an idea, trainer Brendan Walsh knows this particular race really well. He sent out a horse in 2021 to the Gamely to finish second. In 2022, he won the Gamely with Ocean Road. 2023, he finished fourth. And then last year, he finished third. So every year since 2021, he's had a horse finish first, second, third, or fourth in this race. He comes here with Expensive Queen. What do you think about this one?
Again, like, you can make a case for so many horses in here. She's, like you said, only run once in the U.S., and that was a tough race. It was a lower level. It was an allowance race at Keeneland. But I still think it was a pretty salty race and won that day closing from the back. She did get a fast pace to run at, probably faster than she'll get today, I imagine, or Monday. But second off the layoff, second in the States, those are all valid angles that you can play and make a reason for a horse to improve.
Liguria is another horse who would not be a shock at all in here, Alexa. She's a multiple graded stakes winner. She just won her most recent start. She came from last in the field of 6 and swooped on by. We'll see her right here. She's going to duck down to the inside looking for room, and she runs down a really sharp horse named Tirupati. I mean, this is another one that would not be a surprise to see her come right back and run well again.
I agree. She seems to be peaking, just one that grade 2 at Santa Anita that you're looking at here. And again, a closer. So there could definitely be a case for kind of a blanket finish at the wire in this race. She's got her latest figures very fast. She has Umberto Board, who just won the Preakness on journalism. So yeah, another one you could make a case for.
For me, when I'm handicapping horse races, the most important thing that I really start with is the pace. Like, how is the race going to set up? In any sport, matchups are key. You can have teams that aren't necessarily as good as one another, but because of the matchup, they could probably beat them. Same thing in horse racing. But in this particular race, Be Your Best, the number 8, just looks like she found a great spot to get a field where there's not that much other early speed in here. She likes to be right on the lead or sitting close. She can sit second just off. And I think she's going to get a great opportunity to do that in here, Alexa.
I completely agree. I mean, she's got a very impressive resume. If she wins on Monday for Safi, she'll hit the $1 million mark in earnings. She won the Pegasus World Cup Filly Mare Turf in January. She has multiple other graded stakes wins on her resume. And like you said, typically a more forwardly placed horse and is not going to have a lot of contention up there. So I think this race will either be a runaway leader, Be Your Best, or she'll get caught and you'll just have like a blanket finish at the wire.
The 9, Where's My Ring, is kind of a wild card. I actually expect that she may run in the race on Sunday because she just has better form overall on the dirt than on the turf.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, she's just a wild card. I think it's kind of confusing that they've put her in here. I mean, maybe it's a new trainer. Maybe they think, oh, we should try her on a different surface. But I don't know. I also agree she'll probably show up on Sunday.
A really good renewal of the grade 1 Gamely. Let's move to selections before we take our first break. We look at this race pretty similar, Alexa. You and I are going 4-8, kind of the upside horse over Be Your Best, the one that they'll all have to run down in there. But don't go anywhere. We still have a couple more graded stakes to come from Santa Anita. So on this big Monday of racing, Alexa, we have 3 graded stakes races. The big one right in the middle, it's going to go as race number 8. It's the Gold Cup, the Hollywood Gold Cup that used to be run at Hollywood Park. Now, the race was first run back in 1938. Quick trivia question for you before we get into the race. Who won the first ever Hollywood Gold Cup?
Gino, you're setting me up for failure. I will be the worst trivia partner anytime, anywhere.
So the only reason why I asked, because it was a name that I think people that don't even know horse racing that much would know the name, Seabiscuit.
Oh.
So Seabiscuit won the first ever Hollywood Gold Cup. And when you go through the years, there have been some awesome horses that have won this race. I mean, going through some of the big names, Citation won this race, Swaps, Round Table, Native Diver won it 3 times. Ack Affirm is another very famous horse. Ferdinand. Then we get into the more modern times. Best Pal and Cigar. Skip Away, Real Quiet won this race. There have been some really, really all-time great horses that won the Hollywood Gold Cup. And we head out there to take a look at race number 8 on Monday. This field isn't quite as prestigious, but we have one big name horse that we'll get to who's had a really good career, who kind of stands out in here. So starting out this Hollywood Gold Cup, race number 8 on Monday is the number 1 Tarantino. This guy is multiple graded stakes placed. He's done some good work in Southern California, but even in his best races, a lot of seconds and thirds, Alexa. Like, I could see him being part of the early pace, maybe being a horse who's quick early. I just don't know if he's good enough to win a race like this.
Yeah, he's really versatile. He's run on dirt and the grass. He kind of ran a bunch of graded stakes and took some steps back. Now they're stepping him back up to that company. Some of his best figures in his life have been this year, though. So he's older, but he's still got it. He's got early speed. So I think you see there on the pace projector, he's projected to be part of the early speed. He also has the late pace flag, which means he has the best late pace rating in the race as well. So, I mean, that's always a plus, right? If you're going to be out there early and you also have a late kick. So I could see him showing up in the exacta.
Paxa Wallop is kind of a wild card because he's done most of his best work on the turf. He's only raced on the dirt once, and then one time he was on a wet track, but basically everything else has been on the turf where he's been successful. So it just got to see if he can transfer that form over to a different surface.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like he fits here. He's been really well beaten in his dirt tries, so I'm not sure about the placement.
Because you sort of, in this race, you have the really accomplished Skippy Longstocking, who we'll get to in a minute, and then a lot of other horses who are kind of wild cards, who aren't really proven at this level on the dirt. Horses like Pack the Wallop, who are maybe proven on the turf. Midnight Mammoth, he kind of tailed off form, but then he woke up, but in his last race, Alexa, but his win was only in a field of 4, and it was a kind of a race where everything went perfect for him. I don't know if that's going to happen in this field.
Yeah, it was also a wet fast track, which was the first time that he'd run on like a wet surface. And I think
so
that
you can see
him. Yeah,
on the replay right here.
He's just kind of inconsistent, and he's totally flopped in almost all of his recent graded stakes attempts. So I don't know, like, he pops up every now and then and runs a big race, but I just don't think he's that classy of a horse. Yeah, he's kind of a wild card, but I don't know. Not really.
If you're trying to beat Skippy Longstocking in here, one of the more logical horses would probably be Extensive, right? Because he's lightly raced, he's stepping up. You could just see him being the type of horse who maybe we just haven't seen the best of him yet. But this is a lot to ask, and he's going to have to stretch his distance out from 1 1/16, just over a mile, all the way to 1 1/4 miles. That's not easy to do. So he'll have to prove he can go a little bit farther. And we have a replay of him right here. This is a good performance. I don't have any knocks on him overall. I think he's a very logical player if you're trying to beat Skippy Longstocking in here. But again, this is going to be a real big test for him because he hasn't faced anyone like the horse that's going to be right to his outside. But a very nice win here visually.
Yeah, I mean, he's loaded with upside, right? He's younger too. He's a 4-year-old facing some older horses. But yeah, this is a big ask. This is a big ask to run against this level of competition. I will be including him in my trifecta. But yeah, if you're looking for a better price than Skippy, who's undoubtedly going to be the favorite, then you could use the 4.
So the number 5, Skippy Longstocking, he's won 10 of his 31 starts. In those 31 starts, there have been 8 times where he was the betting favorite. and he's won 6 of those races. Like in spots like this, when he's the favorite, when he looks like the best horse on paper, he generally wins, Alexa. Like Safi Joseph Jr. has done a really good job spotting this horse all across the country. You see him show up at Oaklawn, like right here, where he runs third and he finishes third in the Oaklawn handicap. We see him at Tampa, Gulfstream Park, Del Mar, Charlestown, Saratoga, Churchill Downs, all over the place, wherever there's a good spot, wherever there's big money. And it just makes sense because in this race, he's going to face 7 other rivals, and he has won 8 graded stakes races in his career. The rest of the field combined have won 3, and 2 of them were when Pax the Wallop won on turf. There's only one other graded stakes win on the dirt, and Skippy alone has 8.
Yeah, I mean, he's so battle tested. I think Safi's going to have a big weekend this holiday weekend. Skippy Longstocking has won $3.5 million. Okay, I mean, this horse is just good. And I love these stories. They spent $37,000 on this horse. Can you imagine that?
He just wasn't supposed to be this type of horse.
He wasn't, and he is. He's surprised. He's incredible. He's tactical. He's just so, I mean, he's just the best horse. So, yeah, I mean, if he runs his race, I think he's the winner.
The number 6, Il Bellator, kind of a fun long shot. He's grade 3 place. He won pretty nicely on the dirt 2 starts back. Then they tried the turf last time out, Alexa. But I think going long on the dirt, I could see him hitting the board if you're looking for like an underneath horse. What do you think about Il Bellator?
You know, all of his prior graded stakes tries have been on the turf or synthetic. And I mean, his dirt numbers have been peaking recently. So I think it makes sense putting him in here. He's kind of a reliable grinder type, but I do think he's probably a cut below some of the other contenders in here. He'd be tough for me to recommend as a win, but I could see you using him underneath.
And I had a tough time getting to Arrow the Great because when he stepped up 3 times into face stakes company, he's just been way overmatched.
Yeah, and he flopped pretty hard in this race last year. He got 32 lengths. So
this is probably a tougher renewal with the horse like Skippy Long stopping than it was last year. So we round out the field. Let's take a look at selections for this one. I couldn't get around Skippy. I just think he's going to be really, really tough. You agree, but maybe we can find some value underneath. I thought the 6, perhaps the 4 could be horses underneath. Alexa will throw in the 1 Tarantino. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll move to race 9 on Monday at Santa Anita. So the final of 3 consecutive graded stakes races at Santa Anita on Monday is going to be race number 9. It's the Shoemaker Mile. Shoemaker, don't you? I'm coming for you. You know what I'm talking about, Alexa. As we move in to race number 9 at Santa Anita, mile on the turf here. Another really competitive race. Like the 2 turf races, they are fantastic betting races. You can make a case for so many horses in here. Like the 1, Seal Team. I mean, it's not like he's done much wrong in his whole career. His last 2 races, he finished 3rd and then 2nd in races that were pretty comparable to this. He was right behind me, Hermano Ramon, one of his rivals in this race back in December. And he's a little bit fresh right now. So that just depends for certain horses in certain barns, right? Certain trainers are really good when horses have a bit of a break, a couple months off. Other times they might need a race or 2 to kind of build their fitness back up. But a horse like Seal Team, he fits with this group.
Yeah, I mean, this race to me looks like if you're playing multi-race wagers, spread in this race, use multiple horses. I really feel like this is going to be a blanket finish in here. But Seal Team does his best work when he gets a fast pace to run at, and it does look like it should set up for him like that on Monday. I would include him considering how much he's been improving in his recent performances.
Yeah, and the next couple of horses, we have newly turned 4-year-olds, horses that are now kind of stepping up into the older division, and they're all really sharp. You have a Tietlin who's won 2 races in a row. My only concern with him, Alexa, he's been a little bit better going longer. So I think that might be the thing for him because he can go a little slower early, kind of get comfortable and continue to sustain that rally. I'm not sure if going a shorter distance and having to go a little quicker early on will be what he wants to do, but I can't knock what he's been doing recently. And we see one of those wins right here.
I had the same note, Gino, that I think this distance might not be his preferred distance. However, I do like that he's won multiple times closing into a slow pace, which is hard to do, right? Usually you want a fast pace so those leaders kind of burn up and then, it collapses and you have something to run at. And I do think he'll get a faster pace than he's probably ever gotten today or Monday. So from that standpoint, I could see using him, but I do think the distance is a big risk.
Seminole Chief has won 2 in a row over at Gulfstream. He ships to the west, but he steps up. This is a much tougher group. What do you think about him?
Yeah, steadily improving. Switched to grass this year, 1-2 back to back. He likes to sit a nice trip, a few lengths off the leaders and kind of grind them down. This is a big class jump against a lot of older seasoned horses. So I think he would need to run like the race of his life.
He wants to be kind of in the mix early. As we're watching this replay, he was forwardly placed, and then he was able to kind of get the jump. He kind of like trips out, sort of what I call it. Like he falls into a lot of his wins because he can get the jump on the deeper closers. We move to King of Gosford. He's in a really nice spot in here, Alexa, because he's going to make his second start back of the year. I think they were pointing for this race for the Shoemaker. I can just picture him sitting a really nice trip, maybe sitting like third or fourth in this race. What do you think about King of Gosford's chances?
I think the race really suits him. So he loves Santa Anita. He's never been off the board in 6 starts at the track. He's won 4 of them. That being said, I do think he'd need a lifetime best performance in here, but he has tactical speed. He likes this distance profile. So I think it's a decent placement.
One of the horses who has defeated him a couple times, kind of his rival, a nuisance to him, is a horse who is trained by Michael McCarthy and ridden by Umberto Rispoli. Do those names sound familiar? Oh, yeah, they just won the Preakness when they teamed up last weekend, and they team up with Formidable Man. He just feels like one of the top contenders in here. He's become really versatile. This one, I don't know if I wanted Lucia to pull up this replay, Alexa, because Zio Joe, who was 23-1, I bet on this day, and he runs second. Yeah. And he loses because Formidable Man gets a fantastic ride from Umberto Rispoli right up the rail. So this horse feels like one of the major players to me.
Yeah, and this race you're looking at, I mean, there were a lot of common opponents in there that we're going to see on Monday. And, Formidable Man's coming off this big win against so many common opponents in here. He's had a lot of time off. But again, really good trainer, really good connections. Trainer's good off the layoff. He's training really well. So he definitely is one to play.
Zio Joe feels like he had that perfect race. That one that we were watching, that was sort of his race to get the big win. Do you think he can compete with this group?
I don't love him in here, honestly. I think
feels a cut below.
Yeah, he's just a cut below. His trainer's not really doing well this meet either.
Mi Hermano Ramon, though, he didn't have the best of trips in his most recent race, but he's been really competitive with this group of horses. I think with a little different trip, he could be right there. What are your thoughts on Mi Hermano Ramon?
Yeah, I mean, he likes to come off the pace. Was also in that grade 2 kill row, got 5th, but only by a length and a quarter. So I think he could definitely be there in a blanket finish.
Let's pull up selections as we get ready to finish up this week's edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. A lot of similar numbers, Alexa. We're just going to stack them a little bit differently. You end up with Formidable Man on top. He does look like the horse to beat. I'm going to go 4, 7, and then Formidable Man in the underneath spots. Good luck to everyone this weekend. We'll see you again next week.